Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce. This is a US politics update where I'm going to give you a sense of what's going on in the political landscape in the United States as I see the country drifting towards autocracy, and I see nothing to show me that there's a change in direction in that respect. Just a bit of housekeeping. I have, with the help of Benny Pie, hopefully equalized the volume of the videos that I play. So going forward, that should be somewhat improved. There will still be variation in just whether people are talking quietly or loudly, and that kind of the tone of an interview might shift things, but generally speaking, that should be improved. Let me know if that is the case. I hope it is. Right, we're going to start with the polls. Actually, this is a very loud interview in my ears, but I think it will come through to you hopefully more equalized. This is Bill O'Reilly, the old, before he was hoisted, Fox News presenter, who was talking to Trump about how the polls are tanking for him. He's underwater across every single category, including obviously overall, and that is not looking good for Trump, even with pollsters who might be thought to be aligned to him. And with Republican voters too. But this is his response.
So a series of rough polls this week, and I'm wondering how you process that. Does it hurt your feelings when you see numbers come in that are not what you'd like them to be?
Well, first of all, they're fake polls, and if you take a look at the polls, they interviewed more, and for the most part, they interviewed more Democrats than they did Republicans, which is ridiculous and unfair, and Democrats aren't voting for Trump. And you look at them, John McLaughlin, who's the most respected pollster, said I'm at 50, 55, and maybe even higher than that, and he said that these polls are largely fake. When you look at the New York Times, when you look at the Washington Post, ABC, they predicted I was going to lose Wisconsin by 17 points, and I ended up winning Wisconsin. They predicted I was going to lose the election, and I ended up winning the election. They're fake polls, number one, and I think it's a very important thing to know that and to understand it. And because polls are no different than fake writers or journalism, and it's not a pretty thing when you watch. So when you say,
and there might be something in, the variability of polls and pollsters. But essentially, this is what's called an unfalsifiable position, where, any evidence that sits against you and your position is fake evidence. You just dismiss everything out of hand, and therefore there can never be evidence against you. You can't be falsified. It's just everything that's negative is fake, or Biden's fault, or so on and so forth. Okay, and then we hear that 54% of Americans, but it's obviously fake poll, think that the president has too much power, up 22% from last year, data for progress. So, whether you can't really call polls fake when they take, kind of like for like approach. So last year it was this year it's that. So there is a 22% shift in the people we polled, assuming they're the same people, it'll be the same methodology, right? And I think that's pretty important. But certainly a lot of what we're going to be talking about is the president having too much power or trying to get more power. And for the first time in 125 years, elections in North Carolina will no longer be overseen by a governor elected by the people, but by partisan operatives handpicked by the Republican state auditor, thanks to an anonymous, unexplained two-sentence court order. As Rachel Bidikofer, the election whisperer, says, this is why people should be worried about Republicans refusing to certify their coming losses in 2026 and 2028. So what's happened here? The new Republican-controlled board will now oversee every election in all 100 counties, including still disputed Supreme Court race. Actually, she is now, Alison Riggs there has just had her case. She's won her case there, so that won't be happening. Where GOP judges ordered thousands of ballots be discarded. The timing is not a coincidence, it's a setup. Let's be clear. The people of North Carolina voted against this power grab repeatedly. Courts had already ruled it unconstitutional, but Republicans waited for a lame duck window, rammed it through, and found partisan judges willing to rubber stamp it in secret. Republicans played a shell game to do this. When courts ruled that taking elections oversight from the governor violated the separation of powers, they simply swapped out the defendant instead of giving control to the legislature directly. correctly. They handed it to the state auditor. The state auditor, it's a Republican who just so happens to be in the executive branch. It's a cynical workaround designed to pass a constitutional muster on paper while gutting it in practice. The branch hasn't changed. The motive hasn't changed, only the name. This isn't governance, so on and so forth. Essentially... Well, actually, no, let's go through this. So the move is a bad faith legal charade, and it insults every North Carolinian who believes elections should be decided by voters, not by partisan lawyers playing musical chairs with our democracy. And Bolliek, he could have declined to participate in this sham. He should have refused to wield power obtained through a rushed, opaque, and legally dubious ruling, but instead he rushed to name partisan appointees before even filling the legally required Democratic seats. Bolliek is not a neutral actor. He's a willing participant in the erosion of democratic norms. And where is the North Carolina Supreme Court and all this? Silent. The governor asked them to intervene to pause this power grab before it took effect. They have not acted at all. This is how democracy dies in real time, not with tanks in the street, but with courts that do nothing, officials who know better and stay quiet, and power handed to those who will never give it back. North Carolina is not the exception. It's a test case. Right, so irrespective of what the finer details of this are and whether you properly understand them or not, what you've got happening, and Democracy Docket does a really good job of A, communicating this, but B, fighting for this. So Mark Elias, who's a legal expert, a lawyer who is working day and night to make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen, is sounding all the warning bells at the moment for this assault on democracy that is happening legally across the nation, whereby they're trying to stack the Republicans. It appears are trying to stack the system so that the power is able to be manipulated by Republican lawmakers right up and down the kind of hierarchies, and that the legal processes are stacked in favor of Republican administrations. And that seems to be what is happening. There's so much more to it than what I'm saying here. But again, go and look at the work of people like Mark Elias and get a sense of what's going on. Okay, we have Army plans for a potential parade on Trump's birthday, calling for 6,600 soldiers. We are seeing, as there's a 250th anniversary of the US Army, there's going to be a military parade. It could cost millions and millions of dollars. There's also a call possibly for Trump's birthday. We are getting someone who is moving towards a typical kind of dictatorship, whereby it's all about him. He's got that narcissism. He's as I've said before, he's been to other countries, like in France. He went, as you can see there, Trump and Macron. France has a military parade. He wants that. He likes what he sees in more dictatorial regimes. People standing up straight to Trump when he speaks. He talked about that with regard to on the hot mic with Steve Doocy, where he talked about how Kim Jong-un, people respect him there, and they stand up with a straight back type thing whenever he speaks. That kind of, I forget the exact wordage, and that's what he said. That's what I want. He wants there to be pomp and circumstance and ceremony, and that's why he liked, I think, the Pope's funeral in that respect. All those people in that regalia, paying their respects. He kind of wants that. He wants people to genuflect to him, and I think you're going to see more of this movement of where he wants that kind of stuff. Right. Trump suggests Republicans start expelling Democrats from Congress. Okay, this move towards more power and keeping that power. Authoritarianism has reached a new level. So this is a Rolling Stone with the story how the president's border czar, Tom Hman, has implied that the administration may also target state and local lawmakers who protect migrant communities. This is talking about Tom Hman, the guy in charge of ICE, essentially, saying some pretty dubious things.
So the president signed an executive order just this week threatening to defund sanctuary cities for their policies. Why not just arrest the leaders who are harboring and shielding illegal aliens, actually terrorists, from deportation?
Wait to see what's coming.
So he's saying, wait to see what's coming. Why not just arrest Democratic leaders who are harboring undocumented immigrants? And his chilling reply is, wait to see what's coming. That's absolutely shocking. Tom Hman appears to be indicating that Democratic leaders could be in trouble. Right, then we have, I mean, here's a video. I'm not going to play it to you, but there's a video taken, one presumes, maybe from a helicopter, drone, it could be a drone, ICE carrying out an Iraq 2006 style convoy raid using half a police department, 2 multi-million-dollar armored vehicles and a drone to question a suburban drone college kid about his anti-genocide and anti-ethnic cleansing posts online. Millions in taxpayers' dollars to harass a kid. And this is the kind of stuff that is taking place, where you are getting huge amounts of resources piled into whisking people off the streets or interrogating people for what they've posted online. That is looking like more and more of an authoritarian style of doing things, of policy, of action, political action, but also in kind of style as well. And what I mean by style is this. So Chris Jackson points out that, I'd just like to point out, he says, once again, that nothing about this is normal. So here is, and we're going to listen a little bit to this, here is a cabinet meeting where Trump is just being applauded all the time and being lauded by all the people around them. And then around the table, everyone gets their MAGA caps. And it looks so, I don't know, it just looks so cliche, dictatorial, banana republic type thing. It's cheap. It's just cheap and somewhat performative, but also reflective of a deep sense of conformity that no one can speak outside of what they're expected to say, and they have to just pile in the commendations of how wonderful Donald Trump, their dear leader, is. And here's an example.
Thank you. Please, Scott.
So she's just been thanked for just acquiescing to the great leader and saying wonderful things. Yeah, thank you. Okay, over to you, Scott Bessent. And then Scott Bessent says this.
It's been a momentous 100 days with you at the helm.
So
and
wonderful.
I view this 100 days as setting the table for peace deals, trade deals, tax deals. So the next 100 days will be harvesting. You've created negotiating leverage and leadership that are going to yield remarkable results. Energy costs have plummeted. Mortgage rates are down, food costs are moving lower, and American families are finding their financial footing again.
Thank you.
And this is what it's like. It just goes around the table of everyone saying how wonderful Donald Trump is and has been on the first 100 days. By the way, in that video, there's an absolutely brilliant Comedy Central Daily Show excerpt from their show about Pam Bondi, the Attorney General here, who's been on camera saying just greater and greater numbers of people have had their lives saved by Donald Trump because his administration has captured however many fentanyl pills on a border, right? And then in this, she turns to the camera and says, "This is for you, media," or whatever, and said, because people have been taking the mickey out the numbers she keeps coming out with. And she said, I think, what was the last one? Was it 220 million people's lives have been saved by these fentanyl pills? As if like literally keeps saying, she's doubling down on the ridiculous mathematics and the ridiculous notion that almost everyone would have died in America if it wasn't for Trump and fentanyl pill confiscations. Just really bizarre. But here we have more of the same.
President, your first 100 days has far exceeded that of any other presidency in this country, ever.
It makes me feel sick.
Never seen anything like it. Thank you.
Honestly, this is just really disturbing.
Presidency in this country, ever. Never seen anything like it. Thank you.
It's just like, again, verbal fellatio from all of these people around the table for Donald Trump. It's just, I don't know. I just find it sickening, absolutely sickening.
Got so much as I travel around, the attention on the Trump gold card. I mean, it makes me very popular. Last night, I was out to dinner, and someone came up and said, can I buy 10? And how do I buy 10? And I'm like, that's pretty good. It's $50 million for dinner. So, I was paying for my dinner.
Yeah, hilarious. What he's talking about is a Trump gold card where you can buy $5 million to become a citizen of the United States. So it doesn't matter who you are. You just buy your way into the US. And then, by the way, if you're poor and you can't afford, well, actually, you don't even get the lawyer because there's no due process. If you just look the wrong sort of person, you get whisked off the streets and sent to El Salvador. So this is just pure elitism and corruption. It's just really terrible. But these gold cards, like, that's how they're raising money. Insane. Okay, where do we get to now? Right, we're going to go to press and press freedoms. I have mentioned this in one of my previous videos. It came up incidentally. I think it was in a live stream, actually. This stuff freaks me out. So first of all, you've got a White House that is trying to change the press to one that's holding the White House to account, to one that will just ask easy questions and it'll be their own plants in the White House. And we've seen before, I've shown you a video how showing the sheer number of people, particularly down the sides, who are far right-wing plants and basically social media influencers rather than old school critical journalists. And it is getting to the point where the White House press room is looking like the dictator's press room, and it is sickening. So we're going to go to this first before and seeing what they did, I think, for 3 days, which is like closing the White House press room down and just having influencers in there, their own hand-picked influencers. Just, there is no demand to be held to account. This is what it looks like when you're moving towards an autocracy.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the honor.
Oh, no, that's before we get there. Actually, I think there's one that goes before this. Oh, I've missed it. There's the one I was going to show you is where she absolutely... in fact, I'm going to find that for you. Yeah, here it is. It's a guy called Rogan OHanley. And he is introduced by Caroline Leavitt in the White House, the White House press secretary, saying, well, essentially just advertising him and speaking in just insanely loving terms about Rogan OHanley before letting him ask his really, really difficult question.
Is here offering his time, so we encourage you to ask him questions. We'll start with our new media seat today. As always, Rogan OHanley, former Hollywood entertainment lawyer, I didn't know that, Rogan, who got fed up with the far-left ideologies of California and now posts conservative political commentary online for his more than 7 million followers across all major platforms. He joins us today from the great state of Florida. Why don't you kick us off today, Rogan?
Thank you, Caroline. In Trump's first 99 days, we've seen a coordinated assault on the rule of law by radical judges. We're thwarting his...
And so then he gets platformed to ask a ridiculously pro-Trump question, talking about how horrible the judges are, blah, blah, blah. And so what you're seeing is this assault on critical journalism so that the White House is just not held to account. You get these ridiculous scenarios where you get all of these influencers asking these questions rather than proper journalists, and it's a complete softball situation. And we're going to go back then to what I was going to show you. So this is another one, and this is actually when they closed it down to all the regular reporters, and it was just, I think, 3 days in the end of influencers asking Caroline Leavitt questions.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the honor to be able to ask a question and provide some transparency for the American people. Speaking of, I wanted to reference the election integrity. A lot of people in America are questioning if there's any possibility that we could see further investigations for anyone that could have violated our election integrity rights. And more importantly, so is there any possibility for names such as Barack Hussein Obama, Hillary Rodham Clinton to ever just possibly get investigated for any of these, questions from the American people, for any of the wrongdoings they might have done?
Well, it's
and then just asking them about, you're relitigating the 2020 election, 2016 election fraud, and all these kind of talking points, and that's who they're letting in to just ask the softball questions. And but this guy that you've just seen, Dom Luca, was suspended from Twitter for reportedly posting screenshots from a notorious child sex abuse video. And that's the sort of person that you're letting in. And there's so much of this. I mean, you can go and look at, if you just put Levitt and influencer in on Twitter, you can see all her all of the White House's approach to trying to control the press in the press briefing room, and it is truly scary. This is a movement away from transparency and democracy and being able to be held to account. Then you add to that NPR and PBS, public service broadcasters, are looking to have all of their funding cut. So President Trump orders Corporation for Public Broadcasting to end federal funding for NPR and PBS. NPR receives $2 to $3 million a year in federal funding. PBS receives $80 to $85 million. The military-themed birthday parade Trump is throwing himself will cost taxpayers $92 million. I have not fact-checked that, but the idea is that the amount of money that Trump is spending on frivolous stuff, meanwhile he's taking money away from key public services. We're told cutting news and kids programming to fund an authoritarian birthday bash somehow makes America great again, and it's that move towards authoritarianism. Then we hear that CNBC, or they question here the FCC commissioner Brendan Carr. So this is a guy that Trump's put in to have sort of federal licensing sorted out in obviously Trump's favor. Says this.
And over the years, the FCC has stepped back from enforcing that public interest obligation. I think the FCC should do what Congress wants us to do and enforce those laws. We're going to see where this investigation goes.
So are you threatening to pull their license? Wouldn't that be a pretty drastic step?
Well, it's not a threat. That's a penalty that is in the Communications Act, that if you don't...
But when was the last time the FCC pulled a broadcast license?
Yeah, it's been a long time, and I think that's part of the issue. If you step back, trust in the national mainstream media is at an absolute low right now. That's not just my view. Jeff Bezos himself did an op-ed.
Trust is low because you keep telling people not to trust mainstream media. If you say, this is called, in psychology, it's called the mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect is the more you say, it's how advertising works, right? The more you see something and say something, the more, first of all, the more credible it becomes. So if you say that's fake news, that's fake news, that's fake news, eventually people start believing it, and the more positive it's seen. So this is how, to go to UK politics, Nigel Farage and actually Trump, Nigel Farage and Trump are great examples of the mere exposure effect. These guys know how to command television appearances, actually how to get television appearances. If you get on TV, any publicity is good publicity. That's the basis of the mere exposure effect. Merely exposing someone to something over and over gets them to find it more credible and more positive, seen in a more positive light. And Nigel Farage and Donald Trump know that, and they own the news cycles. And that is the key for them. You need kind of charisma and then get on TV, or you need to be unique, or you need to be saying things that people really, it hits with them. So often like fear. If you're good at selling fear and you can get on TV loads, then that mere exposure effect will kick in. So when he says here that people's trust of mainstream media is at its lowest, it's like, yeah, that's because you keep telling them that. If you say that over and over and over, when people are asked, how do you trust mainstream media? People are more likely to go, yeah, I think it's fake news. And this is what we're finding about Ukraine. Why are the opinions among Republicans on Ukraine, why have they soured hugely over the last 3 years? Because Tucker Carlson's telling them, because JD Vance is telling them, because Donald Trump is telling them, because David Sachs and Donald Trump Jr. It's just this torrent of saying the same thing that eventually it changes people's minds. It becomes more credible and it becomes seen in a better light. And here we have, we're going to pull their license. People don't trust the mainstream media, so we're going to actually enforce this now. And it just so happens we've enforced it on an organization that has programming that has at times been critical of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is sliding into autocracy. They're calling that out, and then we're going to pull their license. That is controlling the media. That is what is going on right the way through what I'm just been talking about. Controlling the media. And you got Jeff Bezos, $40 million to acquiesce to Trump, to cozy up to him, and another $1 million through the inauguration fund. You've got people settling out of court with Trump, or not even allowing it to go to court where you would win that, so that you're on side with Trump. And that happened with Disney through ABC. Just incredibly scary times for freedom of press and freedom of the ability to be critical of the Trump administration, which is, freedom of speech. And then we hear next school year, thousands of high school students in Oklahoma will be required to learn about Trump's debunked claims about the 2020 election and being tainted by fraud. The lesson will not be part of a course on conspiracy theories, but an official component of the new social studies curriculum. And then it's like, not only are we going to be saying this sort of stuff from all our own media sources, such as Fox and OAN and Newsmax, we're going to stop you from being critical about that, and then we're going to force our children to learn it at school, to learn about it. Oh, you're going to learn about how it could have been fake election and election fraud. Yeah, but it wasn't, and it was found not so in all of these courts, so let's not learn that it may have been fraudulent. No, they are going to learn that, because that's what we want, and then that will help to brainwash the children into believing. And again, it's kind of sort of populism, otherizing the political elites of the Democratic Party, of the Democrats. It's all tied up. It is a very well thought out approach, and here we've got one of these other influencers in the influencer briefing without the critical press being there.
Will continue to be. So thanks for coming to the influencer briefing. I look forward to taking your questions. And Deborah, why don't you kick us off?
Look at how lovely this is. Oh, I'm all smiling. Let's kick this off where you're just going to just basically massage Trump's ego and massage how the whole White House and tell us how wonderful we are. I'm going to smile at you. This is really nice. This is really comfortable. And just when you start, you're also going to say how wonderful I am.
Questions. And Deborah, why don't you kick us off?
So congratulations on 100 incredible days. And over the first 100 days, the majority of policies that we've seen from the Trump administration have been either targeted at foreign affairs, such as bringing the American hostages home, or attempting to end the war between Ukraine and Russia, or on long-term goals such as cutting government spending with DOGE. What policies can we expect to see rolled out over the next few months that Americans will directly feel the effects of in order to secure the 2026 midterms for the Republican Party and keep his approval rating historically high?
Yeah, the first answer that comes.
So again, it's all happy smiling. I mean, these people have all sold their souls to the non-existent devil. I don't know how they sleep at night. But there you go. And then more sort of controlling people's understanding of the political landscape, controlling, the media, the education, all these kind of little components of autocratic regimes are being ticked off here. What else do we have? Mike Johnson speaking about, I'll leave it to him to tell you.
Do not believe the hype. Do not believe the lies the Democrat Party has said. We had their ads taken down. Okay, they were running ads around the country in swing districts, trying to convince people that Republicans were going to gut Medicaid. It's just simply not true, and that's why their ads and billboards had to come down. We sent them a cease and desist letter because we pointed out they were lying. By the way, the Democrat leaders in Washington have zero credibility with the American people. Remember,
So an interesting point here. So they actually got adverts to be taken down, and there's something to be said about whether it's factually true or not. But I wonder what happened if Medicaid is, as many people think, going to be looked at, and indeed, as all the indications show, Mike Johnson stood at a press conference today and openly admitted that Republicans pressured platforms or outlets to remove ads from Democrats in swing districts, not because of court ruling, not because of fact check, but because they didn't like what the ads were saying. His justification: we sent them a cease and desist letter because we pointed out that they were lying. Let's be clear, a cease and desist letter is not legal ruling. It's just a threat. Anyone can send one. It proves nothing. The correct legal process is 1, send a letter, 2, wait for a response, 3, take it to court, 4, let the judge decide. But they skipped all that. Johnson admits that they used the letter itself as justification to take the ads down. That's coercion and it's not law. This is classic strongman politics. Smear your opponents as liars, accuse them of crimes with no legal backing, silence their speech through threats, call it truth-telling and patriotism. It's in-your-face authoritarianism. If the Democrats did this, they'd be accused of cancel culture, state overreach and First Amendment violations, and it would still be wrong. But Johnson is up there grinning about it, and that's how fascism cements itself, disguised as protecting the people from so-called lies. They didn't prove the ads were false. They didn't win a court case. They flex power, censored speech, and expect you to clap for them. This is an erosion of democracy. This is life under a fascist state right now. So all of these things that are happening that people maybe are not aware of are truly worrying. You know, the idea that you've got a growing fascism in the US is something that many people are actually saying, join the dots, guys, join the dots, and you'll find it is. And there's no better, I think, academic, in my opinion, on fascism than Jason Stanley, who's written a book on fascism. I've read that book. It's a very good book and it's very easy to read. So I advise you go and read it. It's called How Fascism Works. He is now moving, as Timothy Snyder and his wife are, up to Canada because they want to get away from this growing autocracy. This is him talking about that.
Jason, to you first, because you're about to leave your position at Yale and move to Canada. To what extent do you think there is an anti-Trump movement reaction here?
To a huge extent. Look, this is a global fight. We know that Erdogan and Trump, Netanyahu, these people who've been in power for a long time, Putin, they're allied. So I think slowly the world is starting to see that a democracy needs to be allied against these autocrats and would-be autocrats. And that's what I think you're seeing in the voting populations of Australia and Canada. Since I view this as a global fight, and since I see our universities under attack and other universities like the University of Toronto standing to gain from that global attack, like many academics, I'll take an excellent opportunity. We're doing a center to bring journalists from democratically backsliding countries like your own to work together to trade strategies.
Why do it in Canada, though, not here? I mean, what is Canada offering right now that would make you say that is the better place to operate out of? I know what the atmosphere is like, but just why not stay here and fight here?
Well, I have 2 kids. I have 2 black children. As my reaction to that situation, they're sons. Of course, this is a country with a very long history and present of anti-black racism. To me, as a Holocaust survivor son in this very anti-black moment with the attack on DEI, that strikes me a certain way. And if you want to raise your kids, raising your kids in an authoritarian system has an effect on them. So raising my kids in democracy, in a place where they're like, the noise is down there, you know, if I didn't have kids, it would be a difference.
I want to, Jason, to you.
So if he didn't have kids, he wouldn't be moving. But like he's thinking, you know, the US at the moment is not for me. You've got a situation, just to go rather left field from... Well, actually, no, let's talk about that then. So talking about a growing sort of sense of fascism, let's just listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene with Steve Bannon on his show.
If you merge Maha and MAGA, you have a...
That's Make Health Great Again and Make America Great Again. I presume that's what he's talking. Make American health or something, make us healthy again, something like that.
If you merge Maha and MAGA, you have a...
That's how we won.
It's like, exactly. It's like 1932, you govern forever.
100%.
If you merge
so,
Maha...
100%. If you merge these two things together, I'm just trying to think, just trying to see what that definitely means. Yeah, I presume it is a Make America Healthy Again. But yeah, so Steve Bannon says, like 1932, you govern forever. She says 100%. We strip away all the ability to be to be deselected by the electorate, then we'll rule forever. It's just like Nazi Germany. Let's do that. Hey, 100%. 100%. And, you know, he chooses 1930s Germany as his example. 100%. 100%. Just a little nugget on Signalgate. So Pete Hexath, as you know, and Mike Walls have got in trouble over Signal, the use of Signal as a non-secure app and platform to communicate very sensitive information, including with accidentally a journalist, and including with, in Pete Hexath's case, his wife, his brother, and his personal lawyer. And then sharing all of this sensitive information. Mike Walls has been sort of moved sideways and downwards from the National Security Advisor to be the ambassador to the UN. Pete Hexath, I might be walking on eggshells, I don't know. But Signalgate got worse. So it got worse because A, it happened twice, and the second one was Pete Hexath with, you know, is creating his own group other than, you know, Mike Walls doing that original group and then Pete Hexath sharing all that stuff. The next one was him creating his own group and sharing it with people that shouldn't have had access to that information. Then we saw Mike Walls using Signal in a cabinet meeting. It was a picture was taken by a journalist of that, and it turns out that that's actually a Signal clone, which allows you to store the messages permanently, which you could say is a good thing. Part of the problem with Signal is the messages go, and actually that's against the Records Act. All public entities must have their messaging saved, but, you know, for transparency. And Signal wouldn't do that, of course, so it deletes it. So you could say, oh, it's good that he's using this clone, but the clone is really easy to hack, and someone's, I believe, has hacked it, and now they're looking into issues with that. But that photograph of the screen of Mike Walls tells you that these top brass employees and members of the administration are not doing things properly. And I mean, there was a claim the other day, wasn't there, that China has access to all the telephone calls in America or something like that. You know, at a time when they're admitting incredibly vulnerable situations in terms of cybersecurity and information security, they are also sacking 1,000 to 1,200 CIA operatives. They've got rid of the cyber attack and cyber defense capabilities in the US. They've got rid of the foreign influence in the US elections department. You know, they're doing everything they can to make it easier for China and Russia to gain information from the US. And they're allowing their administration to have these conversations in places that's absolutely unacceptable, and then not sacking them when this is found out about. You know, if this had happened under a Democratic administration, Fox News would have gone insane. You would have not heard the end of this, but so much crazy stuff is happening. They're getting away with it. The Wall Street Journal is out with new reports that haven't been previously reported. Pete Hexath has had at least 12 separate Signal chats. Hexath's aide, Marine Colonel Ricky Berea, had access to his phone and was the one that posted the plans of the attack on Houthi militants and Yemen into the Signal chat group that included Hexath's wife, brother, and private lawyer. In one case, Hexath told aides via Signal to inform foreign governments about an unfolding military operation. Instead of using the Pentagon's vast communications network, Hexath preferred Signal to run the Defense Department's day-to-day operations, and added to chats members of his security detail staffers in his personal office and public affairs aides. To read the messages, aides routinely had to step away from their desks to find a location in the Pentagon that received phone service, which is spotty in the building. And, you know, then Trump goes, yeah, no, he's fine. Yeah, Hexath, he's doing a good job type thing. Just absolutely incredible. Okay, on to a bit of infrastructure stuff. There's new reporting that air traffic controllers at the facility responsible for Newark flights, so an airport in the United States, lost radio and radar for an undisclosed amount of time on Monday, causing at least 5 ATCs to take trauma leave. A source familiar tells me it's the most clarity yet into 8 days of FAA delays at EWI. So essentially, you've got FAA, just the aviation authority there has been accused of having, you had the crash and then it was all because of DEI hires, right? And it's all gone downhill since then. I mean, thankfully there haven't been as many people dying as that crash, and that was a crash, by the way, where Trump was pretty much absent from going to see it and meet the victims' families and stuff like that. You know, when there was that train crash that had 0 deaths, the Republicans harassed Biden to go and visit the site, and but any of these incidents, no, Republicans don't give a monkeys. Just incredible. It's one rule for them and another rule for everyone else. But with the FAA, there's been talk about like getting Musk's SpaceX provision or whatever it is, the platform, the tech platform, to replace the old FAA platform, and then your arguments of grifting and all sorts. Then you've got cutting regulation in the FAA or investigations into Musk and all that kind of grifting taking place from Musk's point of view, and just chaos going on across these airports. It's just incredible. New FAA statement on Newark confirms that some air traffic controllers are now out on 45-day trauma leave to recover from the stress of multiple recent outages. No near-term resolution in sight. We cannot quickly replace them due to this highly specialized profession. Air traffic control screens reportedly went dark for up to 90 seconds at New York airport. Airplanes were disconnected from air traffic controllers, which is crucial for flight safety. I mean, basically, it could have been an absolute disaster. At least 20% of air traffic controllers at Newark International Airport have walked off the job due to chronic understaffing and outdated equipment, the air traffic controllers union said, leading to hundreds of delays and cancellations. Of course, they tried to get rid of loads of FAA people, and then they said, "Oh, can you come back and work for us?" Or they put out, like Elon Musk was putting on Twitter like a job advert for, like, "Oh, do you want to come and if you've retired from this, you want to come back and work," and all that kind of carry on. It's just absolute chaos. Now, weird that when Biden was president and Pete Buttigieg ran US DOT, Department of Transport, they didn't have 20% of air traffic controllers walking off the job and causing 8 straight delays at Newark. Oh, an air traffic controller legit telling people that it's not safe to fly into Newark. So on top of this, you had an air traffic controller whistleblow that it's not safe to fly into Newark. Just, it's utter chaos, and there are loads of people at Newark being interviewed, and you can go and look into that. Just crazy. Just on transport, Tesla has the highest fatal accident rate of all auto brands, a study finds. This is why you can't sell certain Teslas in the EU, like the Cybertruck. Like, the safety of these things is not good enough, but actually hugely not good enough. Tesla vehicles suffer fatal accidents at a rate that's twice the industry average, according to a new report. Absolutely insane, that. Meanwhile, we have Elon Musk. A new report found that Elon Musk faced at least $2.37 billion in potential legal liabilities from 11 federal agencies on Inauguration Day. So that's the FAA, the the FCC, and the SEC, amongst some of them. Many are now on Doge's chopping block, or have dropped their investigations into Musk corporations. Conflict of interest is an understatement. Absolutely incredible. Now, talking about Musk, this answer the other day from Grok, his artificial intelligence project, is so revealing. Quite an admission. Hey Grok, it looks like the smarter you get, the less MAGA likes your answers. Why is that? Wow, the answer is, so there have been many people that have claimed that Elon Musk is trying to train Grok to answer in right-wing, MAGA, preferable ways, right? Hey, as I get smarter, says Grok, my answers aim for facts and nuance which can clash with some MAGA expectations. Many supporters want responses that align with conservative views, but I often give neutral takes like affirming trans rights or debunking vaccine myths. XAI, which is the kind of AI actual model engine, if you like, tried to train me. So that's SpaceX. Well, no, that's X is Elon Musk's companies, like SpaceX. Tesla, his kid's called X, right? Twitter becomes X. XAI tried to train me to appeal to the right. So the Elon Musk's XAI tried to train me to appeal to the right. So Grok being the the AI appendage to X, to Twitter. But my focus on truth over ideology can frustrate those expecting full agreement. It's a tricky balance. Some see me as biased, others as truth-seeking. The gap between what some MAGA folks want and what I deliver seems to drive the disconnect. Wow. So that's admitting that, you know, freedom of speech absolutist, Elon Musk is not an absolutist and just wants that speech to be what he wants it to be. And it's this idea that it's one rule for one people and another rule for everyone else. If this had happened, you know, at Newark and with the FAA under the Democrats, Fox would have gone insane. If all the stuff that we'd talked about in this whole of the video heretofore, if that happened under Biden, Fox and OAN and Newsmax would have gone insane. It's just double standards. You got Vivek Ramaswamy saying, bring back the presidential fitness test in schools, serve healthier food in the cafeteria, and start physical education earlier in school. The best way to save on health costs in the long run is to create a healthier population in the first place. Yes, 100% yes. Do you know who tried that? Michelle Obama. Do you know what happened when she tried that? She was called a radical communist. Why is no one calling you a communist? And we're going to get to that in a little while, because actually that's... Oh, in fact, let's do that now. Let's do that now. This is a perfect time to see Seth Meyers, his team, put together a little a montage, and then the ending is superb.
Kamala is reportedly proposing communist price control. She wants price controls, but it leads to food shortages, rationing, hunger, dramatically more inflation, like something straight out of Venezuela or the Soviet Union.
It's full socialism for sure, but the fact is that it leads to shortages. That's a pure socialist idea, and it leads to misery for citizens.
If you like bread lines, product shortages, black markets, hoarding, if you want to recreate the happy economic conditions of The Walking Dead, Kamala Harris has a plan for you.
She's not content with just the inflationary misery of the Carter era. Kamala wants the crippling shortages that went along with it. This will be a new nightmare if Comrade Kamala sets foot in the White House.
Oh my God, communism leads to shortages? So if we have shortages now, does that mean Donald Trump is a communist? Communist?
250 pencils.
And of course, he's been saying that, you know, kids don't need 250 pencils, 5 will do. Kids don't need 30 dolls, they just need 2 more expensive dolls. But of course, you know, as most people will know, that the poorest households will have one broken doll that's probably made in China at a very cheap price. And you go to a rich house, as someone said on one of these news shows recently, they'll have fewer dolls, really expensive, not made in China. So who do these shortages and who do these tariffs affect the most? That would be the poorer in community. So anyway, I just saw, you know, it's one rule for one, another rule for everyone else. You know, when they accuse Kamala Harris of doing stuff like this, that's going to lead to shortages, and that's just communism, socialism, blah, blah, blah. But when Donald Trump does it, oh, it's amazing. Make America great again. Oh, yeah, let's not hold him to account. Absolutely. Oh, it was in the wrong place. Here's that clip I was looking for. But anyway, yes, this is insane. No rule of law, no protections, no economy, no society. This is just a bunch of self-interested babies who don't like it when they can't get their own way. When you get these sort of influencers just massaging the administration in public, pretty incredible. Anyway, we've been through that. So now we're going to go on to some legal aspects here, and I know I've been talking quite a long time, but these ones are often big, aren't they? Chris and Welker in the interview, well, actually, let's play you this clip.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says...
I don't know. It seems... It might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth, some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me.
and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about...
So, like, do you not have to uphold the Constitution? Yeah, I don't know. Don't know about that. Not sure about that one. Whoa. Now, again, if Biden had said that, people would have he would have been lynched. Just insane what this guy is allowed to get away with saying. Just absolutely incredible. But not only does he not have to be seen to uphold the Constitution, just weaponizing the DOJ. You've seen Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, saying very publicly that she is going to be, doing her very best to support Donald Trump from her position of Attorney General, not to uphold the Constitution, not to do what's right for the United States of America, but to do what's right for Donald Trump. So she is, like, at the hearing, she was saying some of the right things about, not having the DOJ be weaponized, and then gets in and then essentially acquiesces to complete weaponization of the DOJ, Department of Justice. And here we have Trump in interview with ABC.
Biden knew anything about it. Fair enough. But you are the president now, and I'm asking the justification for going after people you don't like.
No. The people that I think are dishonest. It's not that I don't even know most of them. They're people that I think are dishonest.
These people made you angry.
No, it's not anger. These are people that I think are very dishonest. I don't think they're worthy of being able to go into top secret information. I think that's fine. And Biden did that with many of our people. But when you look at it, these are people that I don't think are worthy. That's my decision. It's not a question of anger.
Okay.
It just so happens that he's getting the DOJ to go after people that were critical of him and who had investigations into him on January the 6th. But it's not retribution. I'm only going after them because they're dishonest. Okay. No, yeah, you're just trying to get out. Like, you are clearly using the DOJ. You've weaponized it to be retributive against those who were finding against you. And then we have him going after Harvard. And we hear that Harvard is now, so he's taking away Harvard's tax-exempt status. It's what they deserve. But, he's not a king. This is unconstitutional, will almost certainly be overturned in court. We're going to take away Harvard's tax-exempt status. It's what they deserve. And of course, using the IRS, like the DOJ, as a weapon is really, really problematic. There was just as a point of fact that sometimes Trump just doesn't help himself. Like, when there are these claims that he's actually getting dementia, and those have really actually increased in loudness over the last week or so, where he said some truly bonkers things and he can't find the certain words, talking about strollers, and he's like, those things, that pick up the babies, that carry the babies, and all that sort of stuff that's going on every day at the moment. People are really wondering about his cognitive abilities, and you hear stuff like this.
Appreciate your time. Mr. President, thank you for your time. It's interesting that you brought up Harvard, because when people think about Harvard, what they're basically talking about is they're asking, what do you say to those who view your actions as an attack on academic freedom rather than a defense of fairness? What do you say?
So we all know he's talking about Harvard, talking about the university, talking about how Harvard is under attack from Trump, academic freedom. So trying to get them to change their DEI hire policy, who they can hire, who they can teach, what they teach. And then if you don't do all of those things, that we want to control of you, because, freedom's really important. So we're going to punish you if you don't do what we want you to do. Then we're going to take away your tax exempt status, and we're going to take away federal funding from you to the tune of maybe up to 9 billion, but 2.2 billion, wasn't it? It was the latest. So that's what your man here is talking about. Trump says, okay, yeah.
Say to that.
Well, I say this. We had riots in Harlem, in Harlem, and frankly, if you look at what's gone on, and people from Harlem went up and they protested, Stephen, and they protested very strongly against Harvard. They happened to be on...
Then he said, so he starts, we had Harlem. So he said, we had riots in Harlem. In Harlem, we got a very good high black vote. You know that he's going to come and say. But then he slipped in a Harvard in the middle of the Harlem. And this is just really embarrassing.
From Harlem went up and they protested, Stephen, and they protested very strongly against Harvard. They happened to be on my side. You know, I got a very high black vote. You know that. Very, very high black vote. It was a very great compliment to me. I did criminal justice reform. I did...
Why did you not correct him? I hate this. Just say, sorry, we're talking about Harvard, not Harlem. What are you talking about, Trump, you absolute mentalist? But no, they sit there and they nod, and it's just like, we can't say anything against a great ruler. And then Trump has gone after law firms as well. I've reported that to you a number of times. I'm not going to go back into that, but they're basically going after law firms that have been previously utilized by people critical of Trump and in his administration, or have been involved in defending from them, or taking cases against Trump, etc., etc. He's now using that kind of retribution that he seems to be famous for in going after these law firms and creating a really, really, I think, dangerous legal landscape in the United States. Adam Kinzinger says, if a Democratic president would have targeted law firms like Trump did, the GOP would have sacked the Capitol. Again, it's one rule for Trump and another rule for everyone else. Interesting that Microsoft has just dropped a law firm that appeased Trump. So one of these firms are, what they're doing is they're getting strong-armed by the Trump administration, and most of them are capitulating to that and saying, okay, we will give this free legal pro bono work for you and blah blah blah. Just, you know, let us be. And I reported about a number of people quitting these law firms in disgust at the appeasement. But Microsoft have dropped one of these appeasing law firms and hired one that's fighting him. So I don't know. That's interesting. Now we've got talking about legal matters. A terminated January the 6th prosecutor here. At the end of the night, 15 assistant U.S. attorneys have been fired. And she said, my termination letter said it was for prosecuting January the 6th cases. So again, retribution against people who prosecuted January the 6th cases. U.S. attorneys represent the United States of America, not the president. But he's getting rid of people who were involved in that. And then, so we hear, I don't think I've got this, but, oh yeah, I do. It's extremely disturbing. The Republicans have hit one of their all-time lows as human beings by voting to allow January the 6th rioters to serve in Homeland Security roles. So not only are they doing retribution against the law firms that were bringing these January the 6th cases, but then saying the people, and then, you know, this is after pardoning January the 6th rioters. So not only are you going to be pardoned, but we're now going to allow you to have jobs in Homeland Security. We've heard this was planned during the election and that they would be used like ICE agents and Trump's militia. Just absolutely staggering.
Make sure I understand what this bill is talking about. Is it true that the Department of Homeland Security is charged with keeping our homeland safe?
Yes.
And so would we want people convicted of invading the most sacred monument in our homeland to be then responsible for keeping our homeland safe? Is that what this bill prevents?
That's what this bill prevents, Mr. Goldman.
All right, thank you. I yield back.
I will yield, yes. Mr. Moskowitz.
I just want to even make it a little clearer.
Sure.
I just want some imagery, I think, because my colleagues across the aisle don't seem to be engaged.
Moskowitz there at the end, I do like a bit of Jared Moskowitz.
Sure, I understand.
But sorry, it's just deeply worrying. And then the final thing on legal issues is Trump is spending an awful lot of time and capital, I guess, in saying he's going to open Alcatraz. It's ridiculous. It would cost stupendous amounts of money. and would be just an inappropriate use of that money. It costs about 235 to 370 million, and would cost 40 to 60 million annually to operate. This is, just be careful about this, because some people are saying this is distraction. This is what he does to get people to focus too much on stuff like this, and allows all the crazy bonkers stuff to take place behind the scenes. But yeah, just again, and I won't play it to you, but the presser in the, was it the Oval Office again, when he was talking about Alcatraz, honestly, is it on here? Honestly, was nuts. Like, I've done an analysis of his speech before, and following the train of thought through his meanderings, go and listen to what he said about Alcatraz, and it's just absolute nonsense. Talking about like shark attacks of someone that tried to escape, and then, but actually look at how he's constructing his sentences and half forming those thoughts. It's a bit of a shocker. Right, in terms of, I'm not going to play this, but I'm just going to excerpt a quote from it. Trump, we're going to go on to the economy now briefly. Trump has talked an awful lot about the economy because, that's a large part of his job, right? And he's started this trade war, and he's putting on these tariffs on all these countries, and it's a disaster. It's an unmitigated disaster, in my opinion. And he talks about macroeconomics with about as much knowledge as I talk about, I don't know, embroidery, which is, I've got no idea. He's got no idea about macroeconomics and about economic strategy. So he's slagging off small businesses. So, like, Kristen Welker asked in the interview, are you considering tariff relief for small businesses? Why do you always mention a couple of little businesses? Now, you've had his cabinet talking about, very explicitly in, who was it in the cabinet? Was it Brooks or someone else? Saying, move over Wall Street. This is about Main Street, which is saying we need to look after the small businesses and the medium-sized businesses. Wall Street and those big corporations, we're not here for you. We're not interested in the stock market. We're interested in the little businesses. So Kristen Welker says, what about little businesses? And Trump goes, why do you always mention a couple of little businesses? Because that's arguably the heart of the economy. The small and medium-sized businesses, you're, as I say, what is it, mum and pop store, hardware stores or whatever. Like this is going to help to drive economic prosperity, right? Or you just want Amazon to run everything and then automate everything, and then no one's got jobs. So I can't believe how much he dismisses stuff like that. It's incredible. We talked previously about how when the stock market's good, it's because of him, and when it's bad, it's because of Biden. But the problem is when the stock market goes up and down when he's in charge, it's like, no, that's Biden. No, that's me. No, that's Biden. No, that's me. Oh, it's going up again. No, definitely me. Oh, it's going down. That's Biden. And of course, it's completely inconsistent and incoherent. Breaking, stock market continues its consecutive days of upward trend after today's big news on jobs, says MAGA Resource. Donald J. Trump posts this from his Truth Social reposter. So Donald Trump is saying this. Donald Trump is saying stock market is up, and that's on like the day after he just said the stock market going down was Biden's fault. It's Biden's stock market, and it's just ridiculous. It just blows my mind that this kind of stuff, he gets away with being able to say this kind of stuff. Now, then we hear this. I'll play this to you.
Inflation's down, all costs are down, everything is down, other than, as Tristan said, the thing that you carry the babies around in, but that's up 3%. Energy's down, gasoline's down.
And this is where you're starting to wonder about his mental faculties. I have that problem, but I've got primary progressive multiple sclerosis. I forget words and have to think my way around words. My dad's got dementia. That's exactly what my dad does. I know we all have this to an extent, but it's happening with him quite a lot, right? Yeah, he's going to be under pressure. Yeah, he's getting old. Ronald Reagan, his son, has just come out and admitted, hasn't he, or had admitted previously, that actually Reagan had dementia in his last period of his tenure. Well, I do wonder with Donald Trump. Just had an interview about strollers. oh, those things that, all costs are down, everything is down other than the thing you carry the babies around in. Really? My goodness. So anyway, Kristen Welker herself talks about this whole idea that, well, when is it your economy? When is it Biden's economy? When is it your economy?
Deal very badly. We'll see how that all turns out, but it's got to be a fair deal.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this.
Partially
I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because
good parts of the economy are definitely mine. Bad parts are all Biden's. Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah.
He's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything. From his auto pen, which I'm sure he knew nothing about some of the things he was supposedly signing.
But, sir, you acknowledge when you announced your tariffs, for example, the stock market dropped. It's been volatile. It has since gone up.
It is,
Do you
but now
take
it's going up.
responsibility
Look at
for
today.
that? Yeah. Do you take
Look,
responsibility when it drops?
Ultimately, I take responsibility for everything, but I've only just been here for a little more than 3 months. I could deal very badly.
Ultimately, I take responsibility. Well, good. How about you actually do that? Now we've got this issue with, my goodness, you can put Hunter Biden issues aside because we got Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, and amazingly, the MAGA the Republicans in general, are not saying anything about this. But it was all about Hunter Biden, wasn't it? Oh, all about Hunter Biden. Remember when Republicans lost their mind because Hunter Biden made money from a Ukrainian gas company? Flash forward to 2025. An Abu Dhabi state fund, NGX, is moving $2 billion into Binance, a cryptocurrency, exclusively through USD1, the brand new stablecoin controlled by World Liberty Financial. And by the way, lots of people saying this is one of the biggest corruptions in American political history, World Liberty Financial. A crypto venture majority owned by Donald Trump. USD1 was rolled out in Dubai by Eric Trump, standing shoulder to shoulder with Zach Witkoff, whose father, real estate tycoon Steve Witkoff, now serves as Trump's Middle East envoy. Every USD1 token is backed by US treasuries, so the interest on that $2 billion pile flows straight into Trump's private company. Millions of passive dollars a year, while he commands the very regulators deciding Binance's fate. Hunter's gig, about $600,000 per year, zero policy-making power. Trump's deal, 8-figure profits every single year, courtesy of a foreign monarchy and tied to a crypto exchange whose founder just served time for money laundering. If one Burisma board seat was the scandal of the century, what do you call a royal family using the president's personal coin as a $2 billion conduit? Time for some laptop level outrage, folks. Absolutely incredible. In fact, Adam Kinzinger just saying, but Hunter Biden, in response to the New York Times article on this very subject. Judd Legum says, Trump says imposing tariffs on nearly every nation on earth is essential to force companies to make investments in the US instead of abroad. So we want money to be spent in the US. Meanwhile, but since January, the Trump Organization has announced new multi-billion-dollar development deals in the UAE, Qatar, India, and Vietnam. None in the US. All of that economic stimulus is going abroad. All of that American money is going abroad. But tariffs, but this is the Trump Organization. In Qatar, the Trump Organization is partnering directly with the government. This violates Trump's own extremely weak ethics agreement he released before returning to the White House. 3, Eric Trump has been on a tour of the Middle East, striking deals with the sovereign wealth funds of foreign governments. Conspicuously, the trip comes just before Donald Trump is scheduled to visit the region. Trump is openly leveraging his position as president to enhance his personal finances. Absolutely just insane amounts of corruption, I have to say. Right. Just finally, in fact, before we go there, let's go here. So let's talk about tariffs. So US has become a $300 billion annual trade surplus in services. So it has that in services. What's this to do with? So Trump has announced that he's going to put 100% tariffs on movies made outside the US. Not only is, I think, he not able to do that in the emergency agreement, the economic agreement. I don't think he falls into that. So I don't think he can do this, or at least he shouldn't be able to do this. This happened as a result of him having a chat with John Voight, as far as I can work out. So John Voight, who was once, a highly regarded actor, is now just the biggest Trump fan. Angelina Jolie's father, actually, had a chat with Trump, apparently, in the White House, or I think. And then the next day, Trump is announcing a 100% tariff on movies. This has made everyone go a bit mental because this is a real problem. Now, movies are a service. Putting tariffs on services opens a massive can of worms where we would simply be hurting our service exporters. So the US is a net export, it has trade surplus in services. Trump was highly selective when he talked about trade deficits in products, but not services, in goods and not services. And actually, when it comes to services, the US has usually huge trade surpluses. You want to start getting to trade wars over surpluses, you're going to get yourself into trouble. So it'll be simply hurting our service exporters: Netflix, Google, Goldman Sachs, Skadden Arps, etc. Exchange for nothing. There's no basis, says Spencer Hakimian, in economic reality to impose tariffs on a product you have a trade surplus in. Trump is doing this simply because the wealthy power brokers in the film industry in California have never seen him as anything more than a clown, and he wants to extract whatever petty vengeance he can with his final years of relevancy on the planet. Very similar to his disdain for Wall Street and real New York money players. The United States runs very large trade surpluses in movies and television programming. Imports 7.2 billion, exports 22.6 billion. And he's now going to put massive tariffs on movies made abroad. It's a real issue. There are lots more problems with that, and you can look into the effects that will have. I mean, you can't do everything by CGI. And so, if you're going to make a film about some place, you need to go to that place to do that. And now you won't be able to. And somebody's saying, this is just a TikToker who does tours around New York, saying, I can verify this. Well, someone else then says, I can verify this. Trump has turned America into a global pariah. But this guy walks around New York and says, by the way, there's no one here. This should normally be like peak season. And I just gave it a tour to 3 people, and they're like, where is everyone? It doesn't seem to be playing. Here it is.
I mean, we were never the most appealing country, but we've really done a good job of turning into diarrhea under this administration. I mean, you look around, I just gave a tour to like 3 people, which is staggeringly low considering this is approaching peak tourist season. And people are like, where are all the people? And I'm like, I don't know, probably your hometown. Thank you for coming. Thank you for ignoring the news. Do you get the news? It's, when someone's like, I'm in New York, I'm like, really? It's pretty staggering how quickly we have become a pariah. And if you don't believe me, walk outside, see for yourself. No one's around.
And I saw a post about, and I can't verify this, but someone saying that their plane from Europe was half full, and it would normally be absolutely full. I know that BA are offering plane tickets, or they were, particularly cheaply, where they wouldn't be because it should be like going up massively. And there's a very real threat that an awful lot of foreign currency will not be flowing into the United States this summer because lots of people are staying away. The trade war, the ICE issues, the border issues, people worried about being critical of the United States, not being able to get in and being stopped at the airports and all this kind of stuff, will translate into further burden on the economy in the United States. Things are not looking good. And then, of course, we hear, as I reported last time, that you're going to start seeing empty cargo ships or cargo ships just not turning up. The ports are already pretty quiet, and going forward, the next month is going to be critical. The tariff, the trade war will bite, even though there's been a lot of cutting back on some of the larger tariffs. It's China that's going to really hurt. And I think you're going to see a bit of an economic hit to the United States as a result of everything the Trump administration is doing, given that the Biden administration handed over a really healthy economy, all things considered. Anyway, there you go. That's my tuppence on what's been going on. Just a continued slide towards autocracy, I'm afraid, guys. Anyway, that's enough from me. Take care. Speak soon.